origin recently detected at a school that caused it to be closed. And finally, yes, Campi Flegrei is at a raised alert level of yellow. However, here's the relevant context. Campi Flegrei has been at a constant raised alert level of yellow since 2016, although elevated activity has been occurring since 2011. Since 2011, an intrusion of magma beneath the Solfatara site has caused current magma intrusion magma to slowly ascend from 8 to 3 km depth, from which is then expands into a laccolith-like sill that displaces and domes overlying rock. Related stresses from this uplift are largely accommodated by regional faults, causing increased gas emissions in some spots like what was just observed at that school, and earthquakes like the recent magnitude 4.4 event. However, this magma is not advancing any further, and as long as it stays at 3 km depth like it has been doing for 14 years and counting now, it in my opinion won't erupt. Only if magma started shooting upwards above this sill would there be a legitimate eruption danger. However, the aforementioned magma influx and associated uplift are not occurring in a constant manner. Instead, it widely varies, and 3 times since 2023 has produced brief elevated uplift periods where temporarily the amount of ground deformation jumped from what was averaging 10 to 15 centimeters a year to 30 to 60 centimeters a year. Anytime this occurs, larger and more earthquakes occurred alongside them, but the good news is that both prior periods lasted no more than 12 days. At the present, we are in a third such period which as of today is in its 27th day, involving a rate of 36 centimeters a year of uplift. As a geologist, I am personally expecting this rate to decline once again in the next month, but if that does not happen, this uplift rate is still lower than 2 periods of unrest which also did not result in a volcanic eruption in 1950 to 1952 and 1982 to 1985. Now, don't get me wrong. Campi Flegrei is Campi Flegrei cycle, one of the world's most potentially dangerous and explosive active volcanoes during the Holocene. But the good news is that we have fairly confident models that can note where in its overall activity cycle the volcano is. At the present, Campi Flegrei is in step 3 of 5, where an elevated rate of ground uplift occurs due to magma rising into the underlying sill. I would only become truly concerned if the rate of ground deformation suddenly spiked to multiple meters a year and stayed there for more than a year, such as when the ground rose by up to 9.4 meters or a whopping 30.84 feet a year in the 2 years preceding its last eruption in 1538. So, unless we add another zero to the end of the current uplift rate assuming it is maintained, I would in my opinion not worry about Italy's Campi Flegrei volcano erupting anytime soon.